winter.
in the middle of the winter. But within a few weeks, we would take the kids to the beach, and they would be running around with short sleeve shirts and splashing in the ocean.
55-degree water.
Yeah. And
When
thinking
you
it was,
used to -20,
thinking
that's
it was
70 degree
the
difference.
tropics.
70-degree difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really a
We
different.
didn't have the trees for them to be monkeys in, but like they did in New Hampshire.
Old for it,
But we did have all the open land, and there was lots of place for them to roam around on. Back then, they allowed people to do that. Now there's signs out there that says no trespassing, and you can't, it's fences and all kinds of stuff to keep you off the land. But we had opportunity to walk through the hills, and it was a beautiful transition.
It was.
Yeah,
We've had a really blessed life.
Right.
It's not always been easy,
Yeah.
but it has been very blessed. And in the middle of the whole journey, you know that God is there, that He goes right with us, and He helps us through all these things. And He always, that scripture in the Bible about He makes all things wonderful in His time, He does. And I thank God for that.
When we moved to Half Moon Bay, we had just come from a very small church that had grown into about 125. It went from, I think they said there were 35 total, that including all the kids. It was between 125 and 200, somewhere in that neighborhood, and 65 of them were part of the youth group, okay? So it was, we had just come from this wonderful dynamic of knowing how God can make a small church grow into a big church. So we felt, oh, this is wonderful. We're all prepared for this. We go into the church, and we got shut down at every door was slammed in our face. It was like, some of it was the two women just didn't want to let go of anything, okay? So nothing happened. And I prayed and said, God, I don't like it here. Can we go to that church up on the hill, which is about the same distance, but it was not in Half Moon Bay per se, it was in another, I think it was in San Carlos or something like that. Anyway, and God said, no, you gotta stay there. So we stayed, and that turned out to be, the reason for that was that we were to become friends with the pastors that took over from these ladies. So
We didn't know it, but she said one Sunday, I know that you're here to
this is one of the lady
chase
pastors.
us out, but we're not leaving. And we're looking at you, the only people that was new was us, and we didn't have a clue what she was talking about. We found out later that they had been asked to turn the church over to a young family, and they refused to do it. But we didn't know that. But the Lord just said, you go, you pay your tithes, you show up. And then we found out why. The Lord was working in their hearts, even though they thought we were the enemy, and we were just Christians that were doing what God told us to do.
We had
We
no
didn't have
clue
a
about what was
clue.
going on in California because we lived in New Hampshire.
Yeah, so it was quite an eye opener when we found out that these things were going on, and we found it out later on because of the district superintendent.
Anyway, one of the other stories associated with that was that these lady pastors were going to go to, I think to Missouri, to Springfield, I guess to check out whether they were going to retire there or not. And the Lord told me to give them $50. Now back then $50 was probably worth $500 today, okay? And we didn't have much $50, okay?
We were poor.
I wouldn't say poor, but we were
Tight.
tight, very definitely tight. God never let us be poor.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, So I said, okay, I'll write a check. I wrote a check for them and gave them the $50 because they were going away. And I told them God told me, asked me to give them the money. About 2 weeks later, I got an award at work that I didn't know I was coming at all. And with it came $500. So God had essentially taken the $50 tithe before he gave me the $500, okay? So, I mean, that's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And the couple that came after that were the Millers, and we became very good friends of them. She's the daughter of Brother Vickery.
Oh,
So we got to know him. We became the godparents of their daughters. So we were linked in with the family, and all that played into what God was going to do for us, make us go through later on. Particularly me, okay?
Another
Anyway.
connection, yeah.
Anyway,
that
so,
we- yeah.
and the Lord led us out of there into the next house in Newark. When it was time to move, what happened is that the company moved from Palo Alto to San Jose.
Mhm.
And the commute went from a really beautiful commute up 280 to another commute to whatever that is, 680. And it was a horrible commute. It got worse and worse, and it was getting to beyond an hour to get to work. And previously, it was a very comfortable half hour. So we felt it was time to move. So we knew it was time to move, but we didn't know where. So we went, did a little bit of looking, but every place we looked at. Now, Half Moon Bay at that point in time was not a very affluent area, but except in the golf club area. Anyway, we prayed about it, and one day we had something happen at church. So,
What?
Pat,
Oh, yeah, they,
Helen,
well, yeah, a pastor's wife from the East Bay came to speak at the women's group.
which was a very small women's group.
Yeah, well, actually, it was pretty good. It was, she had raised the Bible study to about 35
wow.
women.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sue done a good job with that.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, anyway, so Helen came, and Sue introduced us and said, these people are gonna be moving to the East Bay, and she said, oh, I have a really good friend that's a realtor that's out there, and he would be so happy to show you the houses, and his name was John Sylvester.
So, but we had never really considered the East Bay at all, because the place that the company was in San Jose, and although the commute was about the same from here, most of the people lived down in Los Gatos or those kind of areas, okay? Right at Santa Clara, and those. So we looked in some of those places, and when I asked him, well, this is the price range, he said, well, if you want a house like that, you gotta move to Gilroy, okay?
Even back
I'm glad
then,
you
huh?
didn't do that.
Okay, so that was not
It
the
was-
answer.
Yeah, Morgan Hill, actually.
Okay, Morgan Hill, yeah.
But still, that was, like,
So then we,
not what we want to hear.
when we decided, okay, we're gonna look at houses,